When we were young, my brother and I would spend our summers in the woods outside our grandparents' house. We'd catch frogs and salamanders, chase each other through the trees, and stay out all day until our mom called us in for dinner. Those were some of the best days of my life. And it was during those carefree weeks that I read Maurice Sendak's Where the Wild Things Are for the first time. I don't think I understood most of what was happening in that book. I was 7 years old. But I knew one thing. I wanted to live in the world of the wild things. Here was a place where a boy could be king, and monsters were friends, and dinner meant nothing but wild rumpus. Over the years, I must have read that book 100 times, well into my adulthood. And while I finally understood what it meant for Max to sail away from his angry mother, be crowned king of monsters, and return home with a deeper understanding of himself and his feelings, I never lost that desire to visit the land of the wild things. Here, then, is a cinematic interpretation of Where the Wild Things Are for a more mature audience. One fraught with the anxieties of growing up, but also filled with wonder, discovery, and healing. A tale about a boy who sailed across the ocean of emotions to find the true meaning of family. As a kid, Max always felt different. He preferred reading adventure books by himself instead of playing with the other kids. While they ran around the playground kicking a soccer ball, he drew pictures of monsters under a tree. They thought he was weird. And when no one wants to be your friend, it can make a kid feel pretty lonely. His mom tried her best to include him in family activities, but she just didn't understand why he couldn't do what other kids did, and that made Max feel misunderstood, which made him act out more. Then there was Max's father. He worked long hours, and when he came home, he was too tired to talk to anyone, which drove Max's mother to drink. As the years went by, their house became filled with shouting and slamming doors. And even though no one said it out loud, Max could feel it in his bones. His parents were unhappy. One night, Max heard his parents fighting in their bedroom. It was a bad fight, and he peeked in to see if they were okay. His mom turned around, saw him standing there, then yelled at him to go back to his room. Max retreated to his bedroom and crawled into bed. That's when he noticed his copy of Where the Wild Things Are sitting on his desk. Max pulled the book open and began to read. In the story, Max sailed away from his angry mother on a boat made of paper and sailed past an island full of dangerous sharks and swam with friendly whales and sailed past a tall mountain that touched the clouds. And there at the top of the mountain lived the wild things. Maurice Sendak wrote that Max sailed past the terrible wild things with only one thing on his mind: to find someone, anyone, to listen to his story. As Max read these words, he thought about how much he wanted to be heard. Suddenly, the pages started moving. The illustrations seemed to be reaching out towards Max, beckoning him to join them in the land of the wild things. Before he knew it, he was inside the book. Max found himself in the same bedroom he left behind. But outside his window, he saw a raging storm. In the distance, Max spotted a boat floating in the raging sea. And as it got closer, he saw his mom standing at the bow waving at him frantically. She shouted, "Come back! Max! Come back! Right! I'm sorry I yelled at you. Please come back." But Max just kept running. He ran out of the house and jumped onto the boat. The boat took him across the ocean and up the mountain. The higher he climbed, the colder it got, where soon snow was falling all around him. And finally, Max arrived at the top of the mountain. There he met the wild things who welcomed him as their king. They invited him to their palace made of ice and snow. And once inside, Max shed his heavy coat and sat down next to a roaring fire. For a moment, Max felt happy. The wild things accepted him as their king without question. They gave him everything he asked for and told him stories about faraway lands. But as the night wore on, Max started to feel strange. At first, he thought being king was fun. But now his reflection looked back at him from the fire, and he realized he was not really king. He was a prisoner. Max had escaped from his problems back home, but they followed him here. He could run from his feelings forever, but it was better to face them than let them control him, and that's when the wild things entered the room. They bowed before him and said, "You wanted to hear a story, King Max? Well, here's a story." The wild things gathered in a circle around Max, and each took turns telling a story. And each story was more terrifying than the last. First there was Grunkle, who told the story of the anxiety goblin. This creature would latch onto your shoulder and whisper terrible things in your ear. Things like, "You're not good enough. You'll never amount to anything. No one likes you," and so on. Next was Gorgon, who shared the legend of Medusa, whose head grew more and more horns as the years passed. Each horn represented a memory of shame and regret. Finally, Clack, who spoke of the sorrow siren, whose sad song was so powerful that it could break your heart. As the stories continued, Max felt more and more trapped. He needed to escape, but there was no way out. The cave was surrounded by thick ice, and when he looked outside, he saw his boat had vanished. So Max did the only thing he could. He stood up and yelled, "Stop! I want to tell a story." The wild things fell silent. Max continued, "Let me tell you about the boy who cried monster." He told them of a boy who was afraid of monsters. He told them how the boy locked himself in his room every night, pulling his covers over his head. Then he told them how the boy wished he had a monster to protect him from the monsters in his closet. When Max finished his story, he looked around at the wild things. Their faces seemed softer now, kinder. Maybe they understood him. Maybe they pitied him. Or maybe they just liked a good story. One thing was certain, though. None of them moved to attack him. For the first time since arriving in the land of the wild things, Max felt a glimmer of hope. He slowly approached the wild things and laid a hand on Grunkle's shoulder. "Can I help you?" he asked. Grunkle looked at him and nodded. "Yes, please," he said. With the help of the wild things, Max chipped away at the ice surrounding the cave. Once free, he looked back at the wild things. "Thank you," he said. "I won't forget this." Then he left the mountain and boarded his boat. This time, though, he wasn't running away. He was going home. As he reached his house, Max looked back at the mountain. The wild things waved goodbye. Then he knocked on the door. His mom opened the door, and when she saw him, she immediately apologized for how she acted. She explained that she and Dad were getting a divorce, and that she'd been so mean to him. Max hugged her. He forgave her. Although his parents would never get back together, they did get better at communicating, which made Max feel less alone. From then on, Max visited the wild things whenever he felt lost or confused. Over the years, he learned that his feelings weren't something to be ashamed of, but rather a guide to becoming a better person. He learned that anger could fuel his passions, fear could keep him safe, loneliness could teach him empathy, and sadness could make him more resilient. And while he was never the most popular kid in school, he didn't care anymore because he knew he didn't need to be liked by everyone. All he needed was one or two true friends who accepted him for who he was, flaws and all. It's the end.